Jeff Van Gundy on the call for ESPN ABC. And what was your reaction when you heard that Charles said if the Blazers win last night, they'll sweep the Lakers?
Well, interestingly, I had said just the opposite the day before on a show. I said that I thought that the Lakers had a better opportunity of sweeping the Blazers than the Blazers had of winning the series. And last night, Portland shot under 40% from the floor, and they still won. Yeah. And so I got to give them a lot of credit. I think they were hardened, because they had to win so many games. And just like Milwaukee, at the end of one, the Lakers were down double digits, and so they were playing from behind the whole night.
Yeah, and they've been doing that every single game in the bubble. If I didn't watch the game last night, how would you sum up why the Lakers lost?
Awful shooting, 5 for 32 from three. Terrible from the free throw line. LeBron and Anthony Davis were a combined 16 for 24. And then LeBron and Anthony Davis, who have to absolutely carry them offensively, Davis was 8 for 24. LeBron was 9 for 20. So, it was a substandard night offensively all the way around. They didn't turn it over. They played really hard. They were up on the backboard. But their offensive skill is very limited. James and Davis have to be great.
Yeah, I think Anthony Davis, night in and night out, though, Coach, has got to be the best player on the floor. And these are the first real important games of his career. And I don't know if you ease into the playoffs. It felt like he lets the action sometimes come to him. He needs to be more aggressive. And I don't know how LeBron can facilitate that. Can you change somebody's personality? Because it might just be Anthony Davis's personality.
Well, I don't think you ever change somebody's personality, but you can help them to reach whatever maximum level of intensity they can. L.A. all year has been dynamic in transition, and Davis got a couple in transition last night, but they've struggled in half court. They just don't have a lot of weapons. When you think about it, who else is going to be able to create a shot other than James or Davis? Without Rondo, Avery Bradley, I think they miss his defense and off-the-ball cutting and movement. I'm interested to see, do they put in somebody like Waiters to try to have another guy who can go off the dribble? He only played a minute last night, so I'm just interested. Their starting unit, it just doesn't – they didn't play well, and they haven't played well offensively in the half court.
Talking to Jeff Van Gundy, ESPN ABC analyst. He'll be on the call on Thursday, Oklahoma City and the Rockets, and then it'll be the Lakers and Blazers. If I'm Portland, what do I want the Lakers – what am I forcing or trying to get the Lakers to do?
Well, I think what you want to do is make sure you do a better job of keeping Anthony Davis off the line. And I would double him on every low post or mid post catch and make that ball go to the other Lakers and see if they have enough offense on the weak side. And I think if the Lakers are able to get through this series, I have no doubts that they're going to – every team that plays them is going to try to test the Lakers to see if they have enough offense in the half court. And if you don't give the Lakers transition, if you're Terry Stotts, right, we turned the ball over 16 times, and that led to some breakouts. But if we can just keep them in the half court, make them shoot it up over the top, they won't shoot 5 for 32 from three, but do they have enough shooting?
And then Portland, I didn't know. I thought they might be on fumes. That adrenaline, and you've coached against teams with teams that they just seem to be relying on something internally, and Portland still has that last night. And I also thought the big men proved to be a pretty big difference for that team when I didn't think Whiteside, who doesn't play that much, but then they relied on him last night. You just got a nice team contribution, and that's a team that's a better all-around, overall, top-to-bottom team than the Lakers are.
Well, I thought winning the play-in game on the first night, gave them that extra day off so that they had 2 days off in between games to plan and to recharge. And the thing I think Terry Stotts' team, none of those guys had a big night last night. Yeah. None of them. No one shot well. They won shooting under 40%, but they got to the free throw line. And like you said, they got some timely contributions. Whiteside, Nurkic didn't have a particularly big night, but I thought, he did some good things. Lillard's bomb obviously was an incredible shot, but they can. If I'm Terry Stotts, I'm saying we can play a lot better, and we're going to need to play better because certainly the Lakers aren't going to shoot like that. I just thought they were more ready. And when Doug Collins used to always say, the NBA is not a fourth quarter league; it's a first quarter league, and the team that's ready can play with a cushion the entire night, and that's exactly what happened. For Portland, they were up double digits at the end of one, and that cushion allowed them to play free and with great confidence.
Barkley, at one point last night, halftime, I think Rockets and the Thunder said that James Harden is, I think, the most unstoppable one-on-one player that he's ever seen. What do you make of that?
Well, I think certainly in this era with these rules, the spacing is so much greater now. The rules are tilted entirely to the offensive player. His skill level in this era of NBA basketball, of one-on-one, and the team he's on and how they've structured their team gives him maximum room. He's unguardable. And so if you are unguardable, to me, Oklahoma City is going to look back in that first game with regret that they allowed him, other than Schroeder, they didn't really play him with great discipline. They fouled him on jump shots. I just think that Houston, when you look at Harden and all that he is required to do for that team, he and Doncic, I don't think any two guys, and maybe James too, maybe those three, they have such a burden to create every good shot that you're going to get offensively. To have the stamina to do that, it requires true greatness. And I agree with Charles that, Harden has done it for a long period of time in Houston, and he's done it exceptionally well.
Yeah, I mean, he's a powerful guy. He gets you on his hip. He can shoot the three. He's got great feet. He can get to the hoop there. But I always go back to the most unstoppable player of all time is Kareem, because nobody ever stopped that sky hook. Now, granted, he couldn't create his own shot unless, Magic threw it in there. But I always go, Kareem would be the one guy that shot was never stopped.
Well, that's and then, Wilt in a different time, era of basketball. I don't know why Wilt's numbers get overlooked. The discrepancy between when he won a scoring title and the next best, right, was it was always these staggering differences. And, I don't know why, maybe because the lane was different and, we don't have as much video, but it's.
But Jeff, I brought this up about Babe Ruth. Why is it we celebrate Babe Ruth and what he did, and we don't have any video of that, but we look at him as the greatest player of all time? Wilt is Babe Ruth, obviously without the titles, but the stats, he dwarfs everybody, and we don't recognize those. I agree.
Well, and also, what's funny about that? Without the titles, he won 2 titles.
Yeah.
We talk about it like this guy didn't win. He did. He just didn't win as much as Russell, right? And Russell played with, in this incredible time. And you think about the stats that Wilt put up and those guys put up, there were only 8 teams. They were playing the 7 other best centers in the world all the time. They didn't get to pick on center number 28 and 29, like in today's NBA. What Wilt did, and like you said about Kareem too, Kareem, because it looks so easy, people don't realize the amount of physical contact that was allowed on perimeter players, post players, and still today post players, but there's just not that many of them. But the amount of contact and how different the rules were, the rules back then were all tilted for the defense. There wasn't freedom of movement. There was hand checking. There was body blows. There was no flagrant fouls. I mean, it's like to score in that era the way Kareem did and so effortlessly. You're right. The sky hook is absolutely the most indefensible shot that I've ever seen in the NBA.
Well, and you go back to the Mavericks and the Clippers, when you had Porzingis getting involved with Morris. 20 years ago, they wouldn't have stopped play. Like, you would have just said, play on. Like, that would have been nothing. But, that is a prime example of, the way the NBA is now and, what they're trying to protect or enforce. But, when you were coaching, you probably had a few of those dust up every single night. Nobody's getting teed up.
Yeah. I think common sense has to prevail. The Porzingis ejection, I had as much problem with the first technical as I did with the second. And to me, both things were not overtly disrespectful, that it could lead you to an ejection. Now, I'm not saying that officials were wrong, Dan, but the policies are wrong. I've read so many times that we're trying to take the decision-making out of officiating. That's nonsense. Officiating is about being able to make decisions, advantage, disadvantage. It's the same with players. The difference with players, who can make better decisions. It's not just who has better skills. It's how to use a skill, when to use a skill. So I think sometimes we take perverse pleasure in the NBA in being tough on crime. We're going to show them, there's no air punches. Does anybody even care? Truly, there's a difference between an air punch directed at somebody, you're walking to some official, versus a natural reaction. And I just feel like, long ago, I think it was Bill Simmons who first said it, but maybe I'm wrong, that every organization needs a vice president of common sense. And I think when we're talking about NBA officiating, common sense is so important. Decision-making is so important. Policies that try to keep our best players on the floor versus figure out ways to get them off the floor, I just think make for a better game.
If I had you and your brother have a free throw shooting contest where you shot 25 each, who would win?
Well, he's a better shooter, but I think his conditioning would, his lack of conditioning, he may really fatigue after 15 straight free throws. And if it's outside in the heat, I've got it, because he would absolutely wilt. Yes.
And I'll leave you with this. I was watching the Clippers play against the Mavs, and Kawhi Leonard struck me as if I was going to attach a soundtrack to players, his would be like Miles Davis. There's a jazz feel to Kawhi Leonard. And I don't know why I thought that, but it just felt like he moves at a different speed and a different grace about him. I don't know, but I'm curious if we started attaching soundtracks to certain players by the way they played. That might be interesting. I don't know.
That's actually good. I don't know too much about music, but he does play at his own pace and rhythm. He's not easy to speed up because of his strength and his size. So, you were talking earlier about getting somebody on their hip like Harden, and then you can go at your own pace. I feel Doncic is the same way. He looks like a middle linebacker, like at the point guard position, and he's not fleet of foot, but when he gets a half a step on you, it's hard to recover and get back in front. And these guys with this skill at their size and their strength and the vision they have, it's really hard to guard now. You combine everything, rules, spacing, amount of shooting around. It's like video game type numbers these guys are putting up. And Leonard can seemingly get a good shot anytime he wants to.
And I did bring this up the other day, so full disclosure, where I said, Luka is better than Larry Bird right now at the same age because Larry was still in college. And Doncic has been playing against grown men since he was 15. and the way he plays. What was Larry when he got into the league? 23, maybe 24, because he sat out a year when he quit Indiana. Like Luka, where he is now, it's not unheard of to say he's going to be a better basketball player than Larry Bird.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, comparison is the thief of joy, because someone feels diminished
I know.
when you start saying things. And I think sometimes we jump ahead of ourselves when we say a young player is like an all-time great, because the true measuring stick of the all-time greats is the consistency, right? So Bird had this everyday consistency over a long period of time. Why is Jabbar one of the, could be the greatest? Or Jordan, right? They did it for a long period of time. Why is LeBron James considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest? It's the consistency over time. And really, I don't see anything being able to get in Luka's way to achieving that type of status if his health holds up, because the guy has skill, he has passion, he has vision. Like, if you have all of that, that's what Larry Bird, that's what he had, and that's what Doncic has. And whether he's going to have the same team success that Bird had remains to be seen, and it's so dependent on who they can surround him with. But certainly Doncic is heading to be an all-time great if his health holds up.
And that's why Zion makes me nervous. He's must-see TV and he's explosive, but, when you're in a race with your body, to stay in shape and be able to perform like that, Luka is going to be able to play the same way he's playing now, probably in 10 years from now, because it's not predicated on, hey, he's so explosive or he's so quick or whatever. It just feels like he plays like an old guy does when you go to a playground and some guy who's 50 who played, in the Ivy League, and you're going, well, that guy's unstoppable. He knows how to play the game, and I think that what you see now is probably what we'll see in 10 years from now, and I can't make that same claim with Zion.
Hey, Dan, there's no one that played like Doncic at Harvard, Yale, and okay. No, but you're right as far as, he's not relying on straight and true athleticism, and he has two areas he can improve on, which will make him, again, unguardable in today's game. He's a below-average three-point shooter, and he's a sub-80% free throw shooter for a guy who lives at the line. You just have, slow incremental progress in both of those areas over the next 5 years. I mean, now you're dealing with, let's just say he gets to be an average or slightly above average three-point shooter, and there's no reason he shouldn't be an 80-plus free throw shooter. And maybe he reduces his turnovers, by, maybe half or one a game. Those things at the margins make him significantly better. I mean, I think he has still potential to grow. I think he's going to be a multiple-time MVP award winner because of the opportunity he has in Dallas and his greatness.
Great to talk to you, Jeff. As always, thanks. We appreciate your time.